Hola a todos, Kaisho.
We're back.
Dude, this intro is a little bit rusty. It's been a long time. It's been two
Very long
years.
time. Just
2 years.
about. Just about.
Well, this is a second welcome back episode, right? Because the last one we did, like literally the episode before this was like, we're back. It's been so long. We're gonna be doing this for a long time, and then life happened.
The thing with that one was we were welcoming ourselves back after I think 2 months off. This is 2 years, right? So, anyways,
Regardless, we're back now. You're probably all of our hundreds of thousands of listeners out there are probably wondering where we've been.
we have a lot of those.
Yeah, there's so many listeners. Now, where have we been, Noble? Let's talk.
I've been here. I've been pretty consistent.
Way to just throw the blame on me as far as why haven't we recorded in 2 years?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, my life I think has been fairly consistent in terms of location. I've traveled a bit, but nothing extensive. But you, my friend, take it away.
I mean, we have what, 6 previous episodes? I lost track, honestly, but we have
I
about
think we had more than
6
that.
or 7 previous episodes
Yeah.
on, as you all know, how much we love languages, and that love for languages led me to move to Spain for the past 2 years. I was living in Madrid, and I was working at a bilingual elementary school for 2 years, and I was teaching English. But even though I was teaching English, I moved there to improve my Spanish. So it kind of sounds contradictory, but I was able to do both at the same time. In short, 2 greatest years of my life. Not only was I able to travel and try new foods, meet new people, do all this stuff, but also improve my own linguistic ability. And I had the time of my life. And Derek, you came to visit me, actually, right?
I did. It was very fun. It was just a week. No, it was a weekend actually. A long weekend. Yeah, the jet lag, jet lag got me.
You were a warrior, though.
I tried my best.
You were a warrior.
Yeah.
And you came to visit because you had already been to Madrid, correct?
Yeah.
And you had your own previous experience
Exactly.
living abroad as well, right?
Yeah. So when I was in college, it was my junior year in college. Actually, I did a 5-month study abroad program. It was like the first semester, and it was actually right before COVID, so that kind of dates me a little bit, right? But yeah, it was right before COVID, to where I did my few months, came back, and I was home enjoying life, and then started my next semester of college, and then COVID started, right? But anyways, COVID didn't really impact your trip, so but yeah, I guess if we want to just dive into what this episode's all about, right, is do you need to live in another country to learn a foreign language, right? So I think we've kind of had different approaches. For me, the light bulb about language learning kind of, I'll say, turned on or went off when I was living abroad, and kind of when I like shortly upon me coming back. Yours went off for you before you went there, right? From like talking to me, and like I tried to prepare you for just so you can make the most of your experience, because like there were a lot of things that I did right, but there's also a lot of things that I did wrong, right? So I was like, okay, don't repeat my mistakes and have an even better experience than I. And I had an amazing. It was the best semester of my college experience by far. But I was like, you have an opportunity to have the best 2 years of your life by far, right? So, got to go for it.
Yeah, no, and I know I've told you this before, but you seriously have helped me so much with languages and being able to get over the hump and be able to navigate all the different challenges and the highs and the lows of it. And that call we had where you inspired me to learn a language. I'll always remember that the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But also, I think it's cool that we're able to share. Both of us were able to share experiences living abroad.
Yeah.
And being able to do that also in the same city, because both of us have such a deep love for the city of Madrid.
Yep.
If you all haven't been, it's one of the, if not the greatest city on planet Earth. It's amazing.
Definitely a tier 1 city.
Tier 1, yeah. It's not a tier 2 or tier 3 city. It's up there. It's tier 1. But yeah, we basically, both of those experiences, I think, were so different for us and so life changing that we want, and that's something we had talked about of like, do I need to be able to move to a country in order to learn the language? Obviously, both of us, our target language was Spanish. So we were saying, do we need to move to Spain for a year, 10 years, 20 years to be able to learn the language? And we talked about this in previous episodes, but I think it's cool now that we're able to revisit it, since both of us, obviously I left for 2 years, but since both of us now have this experience of living for an extended period of time in a foreign country.
Hmm.
So I'm going to ask you, Derek. I'm going to revisit the question.
Oh boy.
Drum roll.
Oh boy.
Do you need to live in a foreign country to learn another language?
No. Uh, there's an asterisk, if you want to call it that, a caveat, whatever, right?
Well, what was our previous answer?
The answer was previously no.
It was a flat no. Like there was no wiggle room. There was nothing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because you know, kind of my story was right that I went abroad. I had a wonderful experience, and that's kind of when I learned about immersion and comprehensible input and all that stuff. Right, that at least for me, that's how language learning worked. Was just the more I listened, the more I was immersed in the culture, the better. Um, and a lot of that happened when I was in Spain. But upon returning to the U.S., I kind of brought Spain or brought Mexico or whatever country it is, right, to me, right. I created that environment here, and that's like something I passed along to you, So yeah, like for me, it was kind of always no because I had experienced that, but it was like it's beneficial, right? So
Mhm. Yeah, I would definitely go off of that as well. And I think we're both in agreement with that and the fact that you don't have to, but it's beneficial. And I'm going to lead into my first analogy that I have. I came up with this, and what did I call you about this? I was like, dude,
yeah,
I have it.
I got
Like
something. I got
this
something.
is content. This is like episode material. And obviously, I'm obsessed with food. You like pizza.
Yeah, I do.
You're a picky eater, but what do you put on your pizza? Like
I mean, the
cheese.
classic pizza is great.
Okay,
Yeah.
so classic pizza.
Yeah.
I will say the best pizza I've had in my life is in Naples, in Italy. It's a classic plain margarita pizza. And so let's say, for example, I'm working on my cooking skills, but if I were to do everything I could, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to become the best pizza maker in the world. Pizza obviously is an Italian dish. It originates in Naples. And if I were to say, do I have to go to Naples to be a really good pizza maker? Like, do I have to take the time out of my life to move over there, set up a life over there to do it? And I feel like the answer is no. Like, obviously, I can watch videos at home. The internet is such a great resource. I mean, we live in a period of history where we can access so much on the internet that I can look so much up online. I can read things. I can go to different markets. I mean, the US is such a diverse place. There's so many Italian American. Regardless, you can find places that sell really good tomatoes, really good cheese.
Farmers markets, whatever,
It's all
right?
about being
So
resourceful, right?
yeah, yeah.
So, do I need to do that to be to make a really good pizza? No. But like to be the absolute best pizza chef, make super authentic pizza, like, yeah, I would probably have to go to Italy because there's something in the soil in the Bay of Naples that makes the tomatoes so flavorful. There's something in the quality of the cheese that they have in Italy. Like
Hmm.
you're gonna be better if you do that.
Yeah.
But no one's asking you to make. I hope no one's asking you to make the absolute perfect best pizza.
Gun to your head, make the best
Yeah,
pizza. You're
I
like,
hope. I mean, I hope no one's demanding that of you.
yeah,
That'll be super cool, but you're not required to.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and it kind of all comes back to what your goal is, right? So when I was in Spain, I wanted to improve my Spanish. Wow, right? Like I wanted to
No
study
way.
abroad, and I wanted to improve my Spanish. Once I kind of came back and I started kind of creating this immersive environment, it became a goal of mine to speak as perfectly or as authentic as I could, right? So kind of like the pizza, right? So where you can make a very good pizza in the U.S., but it might not be a 100% authentic Italian
Mhm.
seal of approval pizza, right? So for me, kind of thing was, okay, can I at some point in my life get my Spanish to the point where I can be speaking with someone from a Spanish speaking country and then think that I am a native Spanish speaker. That has been one of my goals. Um, might be a bit of an extreme goal. I'm a bit of a perfectionist with a lot of things, right? So that's kind of what it was for me. That was one of the things that has driven me with this language for so long was trying to get to that level of being able to fool someone or blend in a crowd or whatever, right? I don't know. That's me. That was kind of one of my goals, but
Mhm. Yeah, it's all relative too. Like you've got, like you said, you have to define your goals
mm-hmm.
and being able to get feedback on that and really wanting to improve your language. building skills is obviously really important, but you don't want to go down the rabbit hole of like in suit of perfection, because perfection in a language, I mean, in anything in life, doesn't exist,
Yeah.
right? So if you're constantly in pursuit of something that you know you're never going to achieve,
Hmm.
which can be tough, and it's hard to let that not kill your confidence when you
Yeah.
know there's like you're always going to make a mistake when you talk,
Hmm.
regardless of how long you're speaking for or not. So you just don't want to let that pursuit of perfection. I think it's about anything in life, right? Giving yourself credit for what you've done, but not getting complacent,
Hmm.
and being able to continue wanting to learn new words, new expressions, help learn another language down the
Hmm.
line too.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I think that's the thing, that like a lot of people that are interested in learning language, like if you're listening to this, like right now, you're at this stage of our podcast, right? You probably know us, but if you don't know us, welcome, right? And you're probably interested in learning languages. So, maybe you don't have a lofty goal of wanting to speak perfectly authentic Spanish. Maybe you just want to be able to communicate, right? Maybe you have some friend that is from a Spanish speaking country and you want to be able to communicate with them a little bit to make them feel more welcome. Or maybe you work with someone or whatever it is, like it, you don't need to strive for the absolute peak kind of thing. It's just, and the tips that we give and our experiences, it's just about improvement, right? And it doesn't mean that, oh, it's only to absolutely get to this level. It's like, no, it's just to kind of help you move along the way and help you progress and develop. But, regardless of what your goal
Mhm.
is, if you just want to be conversationally fluent or have some basic phrases, or be conversationally fluent, or be completely fluent, or be near native level, whatever it is, like we want to help you guys get there and talk about our experiences and how we've gotten along that path, right?
Mhm.
So,
So yeah, you can, in short, you can do everything. You have all the resources you have at home now.
mhm.
Like we live in a period of history where learning another language has been more accessible than it's ever been. Like imagine trying to learn a language. I just saw it the other day. Like imagine trying to learn another language back like before the internet, when it was
Oh
just like,
yeah.
how would you be able to listen? How would you be able to? I mean, obviously speaking is probably the same, but like the amount of content you can get now thanks to the internet
Mhm.
is more accessible than it's ever been before. So you can do it from home.
Yeah.
But if you do decide that you do want to take that jump, and this is another segue and segment I think we can talk about, is like when you take that jump to move to a foreign country, if you have the opportunity, and we said like it's going to take you to another level, it will be extremely beneficial. You can't just expect it to happen. You can't just expect, all right, I'm going to move to Spain, I'm going to move to Japan, and I'm just going to magically become fluent in the language, or I'm just going to magically improve my ability to speak that language. It's about what you make of it, and you have to sometimes seek out those opportunities even in those countries.
Yeah, it's not about, like, it's not that you get to Spain and you breathe the Spanish air full of cigarette
Dude,
smoke,
I
right?
thought that was gonna happen. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
lie. All in the terrazas
yeah,
in
yeah.
Madrid, I was like, oh my gosh.
The heavily polluted Spanish air,
I
right?
quickly found out that was not the case.
Yeah, it doesn't improve your Spanish. Maybe a 2%
Mhm.
improvement, right? But it's not
Mhm.
substantial. So yeah, it's not, unfortunately, it's not like that, and kind of what you were saying. Like if you move somewhere, you can't just expect it to happen, right? So like I was kind of guilty of this my first, I'll say, month or two of studying abroad, and a lot of people in my program are also guilty of this, to where like I got to Spain and I was living my normal life that I had in the States to a degree, right? In Spain. So I was still following all of the YouTubers that I followed, all the American YouTubers that I followed. I was still listening to the same music, American music, that I was listening to, right? So, and I was riding the metro in Spain, and I was just listening to my American music and watching my American shows on Netflix. And then that's kind of when the light bulb went off for me. It was like, wait, like I can either take advantage of my environment that's already here, right? Or take advantage of it and just kind of always make sure that I'm surrounded by it and kind of have like a little Spanish bubble around me, right? So then I just kind of made that switch to music in Spanish and TV shows and YouTube in Spanish and stuff like that. And for the better part of, it's like 3 4 years kind of thing, I think I watched like one Netflix series in English, and everything else was in Spanish. And my Spanish improved tremendously over that time, just because of hundreds of Netflix episodes of various countries and listening, boom, 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 right? So I kind of, once I left Spain, I brought the Spanish with me, and yeah, that's what I did, and it worked because I didn't have the opportunity just to stay in Spain for another year or two
Mhm.
years or whatever, right? So,
You talk about the content you consume every day. How is it with like your social interactions when you were there, like your group of friends? You lived with the host family too, right?
mhm.
How was that? Like, did you feel intimidated to talk to your host family? Did you kind of avoid those interactions and like kind of stick to your American friends? Because I know I did when I was in Spain. Like,
Yeah,
did you kind of
no,
find that?
yeah, definitely for a bit. So I actually lived with a close friend of mine. He's Peruvian, and we were living with a Spanish family. And yeah, when I got there, right, like I was terrified to speak in Spanish, um, which was kind of funny, right? Because I did high school Spanish, and it's the Dunning Kruger effect, right? So I was extremely confident. Or I thought I was confident, right? I was like, oh yeah, I speak Spanish. It's gonna be no problem. I'm gonna get this.
Seal of biliteracy.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to Spain, and it's just gonna be brilliant, right? And it's just everything is just gonna click and boom, 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 boom. Um, and I went to like my host mother tried to tell me something, and I just like looked at her. I was like, huh? Right? I was just completely lost, and that's kind of when it hit me. I was like, oh, life isn't a textbook. You know,
Mhm. Yeah.
this is very, very different kind of thing. So yeah, what I did when I started is I would talk to my Peruvian friend, and it started with me being like, hey, can you tell our host mom this? Because I didn't feel, and I would tell him in English to tell her in Spanish, kind of thing, because I didn't feel comfortable. And then eventually, like over the course of the thing, it was like I would ask him in Spanish, like, hey, how do you say this? And I would say that part in English, and he'd kind of translate that back. And then I was like, okay, I'd try to save that in my memory, and then go and repeat it and implement it, and boom, But it definitely took a little bit. It definitely took a little bit to kind of make that shift, right? So.
Mhm. Yeah, I can relate to that as well. I remember when I moved to Spain, I had my light bulb moment before you did. So
Mhm.
I feel like I had already had, not like I was saying I was fearless and I had no fear. I still had fears 100%. But when I got there, my fear of talking to people was kind of gone. I wasn't really afraid of going up to people and talking to them. But what really was tough for me was being at work or like being in other social settings. And at this point, I had already talking to people one on one, having
Mhm.
one on one conversations. But when I started like being in group conversations, and obviously
Oh, that's tough. That's
Spanish people like
very
talk
tough.
pretty fast,
Yeah.
and like a lot of Spanish speakers do. It's a beautiful language. That's why it flows off the tongue really easily. But like in group conversations, I was like, it was a completely different world
Mhm.
because I had to like quickly process what that person said, and then just like that, that next person is speaking, and
Mhm.
then you kind of just turn into the bystander in that conversation, and that's where I got a lot of fear. And eventually, I just like by just throwing myself in the fire and kind of being the bystander and chiming
Mhm.
in here and there. And then once I chimed in a little bit more, was able to say more things.
Yeah.
And obviously, I made a ton of mistakes when I talk. I still do, but at the end of the day, I still found myself being able to be a part of those conversations. Um, but another hard part too, I will say, was just seeking opportunities to speak Spanish. Like I
Mhm.
moved to Spain, and I thought, man, all my friends are going to speak Spanish. I'm going to speak it every day,
Mhm.
and I don't regret having a lot of American friends because they're my friends and they will be the rest of my life. And that's, I feel like when you move to another country, you kind of stay
Mhm.
with you want to make friends regardless of what language they speak. And I found a lot of my friends were English speakers. So I really had to seek out those opportunities and really make an effort to meet people. I don't know if you felt the same way or not.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I, you know, because I kind of had that light bulb moment along the journey when I was already there. So like, I didn't really meet many Spanish people, just kind of crazy to say, right? Like, I was in Spain for 5 months, and I didn't meet many Spaniards and like kind of become friends with people. Obviously, there was my host family. I would talk to them plenty. And I would talk to, like, you know, you go to a tapas bar kind of thing, and you start talking to the waiter kind of thing, or the bartender or whatever. And like, you can have a conversation. So it's like I started doing that more, when at the beginning I didn't do that at all. But I started kind of doing that, and those kind of became like, I don't want to say friends, right? But like, people, I would. often go to the same restaurant and talk to the few people behind the bar kind of thing. And then it kind of became that group conversation that you were saying, right? And the reason that happens is because when you speak to one person and when they detect that, okay, maybe this isn't your strong language, um, psychologically they're gonna, or not psychologically, like subconsciously, they're gonna make an effort to modulate their speech and maybe speak a little slower or
Mhm.
try to enunciate their words more, right? So that's that's definitely a level that you can reach, right? It's like, okay, I can speak to a native speaker, even like, yes, they're speaking a little slower and stuff, but that's a huge milestone that you should be proud of, right? But then it's like I'll say the, not maybe not the ultimate test, right? But one of them, right?
Mhm.
Is if you're in a group of Spanish speakers or whatever the language is, and you can keep up with the conversation and participate in a group conversation. Because that's the thing. If there's three of them or two people or whatever, right, speaking that language, they're not necessarily considering that you're still learning the language. They're just at some point they're just going to start free flowing amongst themselves, and then it's up to you. It's like, oh, can you keep up,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah.
that's where it gets kind of fun, right? But
A lot
I,
of it also depends on the topic
mhm.
of conversation. And I was really hard on
Oh yeah,
myself within the first like couple times that happened. I was like, why can't I speak in a group conversation? And my confidence kind of went down, right? You go through all these
yep,
highs and lows, previous episode, highs and lows of language learning. But you go through these highs and lows where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so good. I'm so fluent. And then you're like, man, am I really that good? And that was one of those moments where I was like in a group conversation with my coworkers and they were just like ranting about like parents of kids
hmm
and ranting about curriculum and stuff
hmm
like that where I was working with them, but I just met these people. And even like, and I kind of realized, I was like, if I was having this conversation in English, probably wouldn't be able to contribute
much at
much
all. Yeah.
anyways. So I kind of came to that realization. And that's another thing, is just don't, being in a foreign country, you're in a vulnerable place, right? You're out of your comfort zone, which is great.
hmm
But in those moments of vulnerability, when you're feeling kind of, there's going to be moments where you don't feel confident or you
hmm
feel a little bit
Oh yeah.
vulnerable.
Oh,
Just
one
don't be
hundred
hard on
percent.
yourself. Like, just you already being in that situation in the first place, taking that leap of faith and being somewhere new is enough
hmm
to pat yourself on the back. So it's really important just to stay confident
Yeah.
and keep hyping yourself up.
Yeah, and I think having that awareness, like you're saying, like certain conversations you're not going to be able to contribute much. Like I've kind of experienced that. So like I've mentioned this in previous episodes, but it's been a while, right? So if you guys forgot, I actually was born in Brazil, and I grew up there for the first 7 years of my life, and then I moved to the U.S. and I've always spoken to my family in Portuguese and stuff like that. So I've maintained the Portuguese, right? But there's times that I go and visit my family, and I remember a few years ago I actually went and visited my cousin who was studying to be a doctor, and I went and hung out with her and some of her friends from her med school program, and I just remember I was like lost in the conversation. Like, it was a group conversation. I was like, well, this is like my native tongue, right? Like,
And in a language you perfectly understand. Yeah.
and that's the thing. I could understand a lot of the words and I could keep up, but after a while, like they were just talking about all this surgical stuff, and I was like, kind of like what you said, like even if this was in English, right? And my English is better than my Portuguese. I grew up here, but like my Portuguese is still plenty good to have any conversation about just about anything. But it's like I was like, yeah, there's not much that I can contribute to this topic because it's not something that I know about. It's extremely technical, right? And they were talking about like the different approaches in the middle of a surgery and stuff like that. And I was like, I've had surgery before.
You don't just casually talk about surgical terms with your friends.
No, no, but I'm a big fan of college swimming, though. But
Aren't we all?
yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, and so it was kind of just a little moment that I was like, oh, well, yeah, I guess it's not me going crazy. It's not like for me to get insecure about my Portuguese abilities or anything like that. It's just I'm not a doctor, and I don't like. It's not a conversation that I'd be having with my friends. So yeah, maybe it's not something that I
Mhm.
can talk about in any language,
Mhm.
So
Yeah. In short, don't confuse social struggles with your language inabilities,
hmm
right? And it's hard to think about that, but just take a second, like if you're in that situation and think back and like, you know, if you're in a social situation that would be tough to be in, even in English, maybe the conversation has nothing you can chime in about no matter what language you're trying to speak.
yeah.
Or if even the people you're with, even if it's not like the most warm person or someone who's not really open to speak, if you're like, man, that conversation went really poorly, well, it's probably not because of your inability to speak language. It
hmm
could just be because you met someone. It's not a reflection of either one of you, but maybe you just didn't have a great social interaction with them.
Oh yeah, and we've talked about that plenty. Like people that. you'd try to speak to in Spanish and they'd respond in English and stuff like that. It's like there's going to be a lot of that, right?
Hmm.
There's going to be a lot of that. And there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, but I think it's just important to kind of remind yourselves, like, if you're dedicating time to the language, even something, there's going to be moments that are like those down moments where it feels like you're not improving. But realistically, if you're dedicating time to it, you're practicing it, you're listening to it, you're immersing yourself in it, you're going to be getting better. It might not always feel like it, right? And there's going to be a few days where you're like, crap, like I forgot everything. Oh no, right? Um, but if you just keep doing it and keep putting in the time and the reps and stuff like that, eventually it's like, oh wait, yeah, no, I have been getting better all this time,
Hmm.
right? It just didn't feel like it.
And if you're in a foreign country too, like I said, don't expect it to happen. But yes, you will be getting better.
Mm-hmm.
I think subconsciously when you're on the public transportation, when you're in a
Mm-hmm.
restaurant, when you're at work, you're going to hear phrases like you're not going to be able to escape it. You're not going to be able to avoid it, which
Mm-hmm.
is great, and that's going to help you improve a lot and pick up subconsciously on things. But that's not enough. Just being able to listen to it every day
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean you're going to start speaking. It could help, but it doesn't mean you're just going to naturally all of a sudden, like you said, breathe the
Mm-hmm.
Spanish cigarettes out of the air and you're going
Yeah.
to start speaking
Yeah.
like with the most authentic like Castilian Spanish you've ever heard in your entire life, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
just not going to happen. So, in short, in summary, I think we can say this safely. Not say it safely. Obviously, not everything we say is 100% correct, but in our opinions, is it necessary to move to a foreign country to learn a language? No.
Yeah. It'll accelerate it,
Hmm.
right? It'll make it easier, to where you'll, if you're in another country, you're almost actively trying not to learn it, right?
Hmm.
Versus like if you're in your own native country, you can just be living your own life in English, and like, yeah, you're never gonna learn Spanish that way,
Hmm.
right? But like if you actually start dedicating stuff, and kind of like what we've talked about in our previous episodes of, bringing the language to you, immersing yourself, and it's like your 30-minute drive to work, listening to a podcast in your target language, right? Like watching shows, listening to music, doing language exchange, having like language partners and stuff like that. That's something we've both done. We've both done plenty of,
Hmm.
right? To talk to people and just really practice and stuff like that. Like there's so many ways with this technological world that you can bring languages to you, and we've talked about it before, and we're going to talk about it again, right? So it's just take advantage of it, because yeah, at the end of the day, you don't need to go to another country. There's a lot of stuff. Obviously, it will help, right? And it makes it more practical. It makes it easier and stuff like that. It might be easier to find Spanish music if you're in Spain. Then again, you could go on the Apple Music or Spotify top 100 Spain or whatever and find, oh, that's what's
Hmm.
popular in Spain right now. So it's that easy. It's just a
Yeah.
few clicks with this day and age. It's really crazy to think about sometimes. But
I think one of my final thoughts is I think somebody who's living at home but is really motivated to learn the language and spends what we talked about 30 minutes or
mhm,
whatever. Someone who surrounds himself in the language at home is going to learn more faster, at least in my opinion, will learn faster than somebody who has moved to a foreign country and just stays within their social circle, doesn't speak the
mhm,
language, and just listens to content in their own native language.
no, absolutely.
I think, I don't know if you agree or not,
Yeah,
but
no, 100%.
mhm,
Like I think I learned a lot of Spanish while I was in Spain, but I think that the greatest majority of my Spanish speaking skills or listening skills or just general language skills, right, came in the 2 to 3 years
mhm.
following once I got back. Just because learning Spanish and just practicing my Spanish and improving my Spanish was one of the most important things in my life during that. Very extreme, and you don't need to be that extreme,
You have to, you must.
right? But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's where I made the most progress, right?
Mhm.
Like if you're trying to quantify it on like a 0 to 100 scale, I made a huge leap in that time just because I was doing that, right? Um, and kind of on the contrary, it's like, well, not on the contrary, but we've seen plenty of examples of people living in the U.S. for years, and 10, 15, 20 years or whatever, and they came from another country, and maybe their English isn't perfect, kind of thing, but they just kind of started living their life and having their own social circles and stuff like that, here in the US. And that was that. It's like if you really want to improve and if you're striving for perfection or a super advanced level or something like that, it requires work, regardless of if you're in another country, if you're in your if you never leave your house or whatever, right? Like it's still going to require a lot of work. because it's a process, right? Like language learning is a process. It takes time. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, it's what you make it, right?
Exactly.
So
At the end of the day, it's what you make of it. And in summary, is it necessary to move to a country? No. Will it benefit you? Yes. Will it get you closer to perfect? Yes. But is anyone asking you to be perfect?
unless you're like a spy and you really need to, you're in that
Somebody
situation,
with
right?
spies. Yeah, I mean, I guess true.
I'm a spy. No,
But
yeah,
yeah, no one's asking you to be perfect.
you
It's
know,
going to be beneficial. If you have the opportunity, I say, we both
yeah.
say do it.
And do it for yourself too.
Mhm.
It can be such a fun and rewarding experience. So do it for yourself. Make the most out of it.
Get out of your comfort zone. Do it.
You got it.
Um, so yeah, that is pretty much it. In short, us talking about our experiences, us rambling once again. But
Yeah, we're back.
would it really be another episode? That's how you know we're truly back. Is that we're rambling again? This time we're rambling into microphones. We have mics now. So
Yeah,
pretty cool. We're
we upgraded after 2 years.
pretty
Took us
official.
long enough. I
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's hope it's not another 2 years before we post another episode. So, amen to that.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, veremos.
No promises.
But I just want to take the time. Thank you all so much
Yep. Thank
for
you.
listening to all of our, whether it's 1 or 1 million listeners out there listening. Hope you were able to at least take something out of this episode.
Yep.
And once again, check us out on YouTube, on Spotify. I think we're on Apple Podcasts too. We're about to be on Apple Podcasts.
If we're not, we will be.
Yeah, we will be. So whatever platform you prefer. And feel free to reach out to us on Gmail as well. If you have any questions, whatever it may be, shoot us an email. You can slide into our Instagram DMs. We're giving you permission to do that as well. We will respond. And we love talking languages. Happy to help you all out in any way we can. Y yo creo que ya está.
Yeah, that's it.
Right. We will
Until
catch
next
you
time.
all in the next episode.